Senator Kajwang. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, considering that we are 1 hour 15 minutes behind schedule, which then means that it is inevitable that today's sitting will not end any time earlier than 8 p.m. Your indulgence, that the 1 hour 50 minutes that is pending for presentation of evidence and prosecution of the case by the executive started counting at 2 o'clock when you took that seat, because this delay cannot then be offloaded on the Senate when the Senate was here on time. And that kind of ruling will then also cause the executive to hasten, because you cannot be sitting here for 15 minutes waiting.
What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
The Speaker, I don't agree with Senator Kajwang. We can sit up to midnight. This will not be the first day to do so. But most importantly, when yesterday we delayed for 45 minutes, the parties indulged us. So there's no need to go that direction. And considering, Mr. Speaker, that it's only 15 minutes difference, we should not waste even more time. Let's just proceed.
I think the senators were just being cautious, and I know His Excellency the Governor for Nairobi was a deputy whip here, and he knows what it means to keep time. So, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
So, Mr. Speaker, by the time we went for lunch, there was a clip which was supposed to be played by the ICT team, which was in the public domain, to confirm on the unearthing of this bursary scandal payments. So I just want to remind the ICT team to play that clip.
Let's start off with a conversation that you're having even. Let's start off with a conversation that you're having even right now as you speak. You're calling it Nairobi MCA's bursary heist. We are calling it stealing from the poor. This is the amount of money that has so far been lost, and it is still more counting. So tonight we begin with the blatant theft of bursaries at the Nairobi County Assembly. Imagine applying for bursary for your son or daughter, and upon approval, the check is diverted to a personal account of your local leader. Well, investigations by the Director of Criminal Investigations and the EACC have unearthed a cartel among MCAs in Nairobi who have diverted bursaries to limited companies and their personal accounts. Some of the schools that were supposed to benefit from the bursary kitty wrote to the DCI clarifying that they have never received any checks or money. Stephen Leto reports on this latest scandal at the City Hall.
Cases of bright but needy students failing to join Form 1 due to lack are reported beginning of every school term. Most of these cases, poor parents have knocked doors to seek bursaries in vain. A probe by the DCI and EACC has unearthed the rot in the Nairobi County Assembly, with some MCAs allegedly channeling bursary funds into personal accounts. In 2018, the Banking Fraud Investigations Department launched investigations after it emerged millions of shillings meant for bursaries were ending up in private pockets. The DCI wrote to various schools in question, asking whether they had received checks to benefit needy students in their schools. General Mulinge High School replied saying the school did not receive any check for money and the student in question was not in the school, yet the money had already been cashed. Administrators at Sengani Girls School also told the DCI that the school did not receive any check as alleged. Kariti Secondary School have the same account of not receiving any check despite records showing it had received the money. Bursaries in question ranging from 5,000 shillings to 25,000 shillings per student. But where was all these monies going to? The DCI in its investigations report concluded that one school was established in Nairobi by the name Kobudo Educational Center that was used as a conduit to deny thousands of pupils their rights. Directors of this establishment were found to be one Job Omondi, working in Nairobi County Water Department. Francis Ouma, said to be a personal assistant to current MCA David Mberia, who is also the minority leader in the assembly. Queensta Ouma, a wife to the PA, and Nancy Nasimiu, wife to Job Omondi, was also named as a director. Investigators found a trail of withdrawals, all by one Job Omondi, done on different occasions. First, he took out 449,000 shillings. In another occasion, 624,000 shillings, and then withdrew 900,000 shillings. When the DCI was on this trail, detectives found 77 forged bursary checks and 129 imaged checks amounting to 4.5 million shillings in one of the local banks. Another trail put Kitusuru MCA Alvin Palapala, linking him to NR Talvo Limited, a company that also received diverted checks. James Momita and
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page 234, there is a statement for Kobudo Educational Center, the fake school, where MCAs used to take their checks and withdraw the proceeds in cash. So, page 234, Mr. Speaker, for example, this does not affect Nairobi City County only, Mr. Speaker. Even CDF funds in various county constituencies in Nairobi, they're also victims of this scandal. Because as you can see, transaction number 1, this is a check, it's a transaction in 30th June 2016. There's a check from Langata Constituency Development Fund of 56,000, which was credited. Then the same day, the same was withdrawn in cash at current branch. 54,000 was withdrawn in cash. In the interest of time, Mr. Speaker, I'll not explain the entire statement because it's self-explanatory, but I'll take you to the transactions in the same page for 2016 before I became the governor. The same scandal was ongoing. Page 235, Mr. Speaker, these are cash deposits from Nairobi County, bursary fund, withdrawn in cash from current branch, transaction number 4 from the top of page 235. You'll find there is a check that was deposited, then there is our cash withdrawal. I just want to focus on Nairobi City County government alone, Mr. Chair. So, if we go to page 236, same transactions, Mr. Chair. Page 237, same. For instance, a good example, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, page 234. Okay, I was not the governor yet, but the same scenario is witnessed here. For instance, the first transaction on the 17th June 2017, another check from Nairobi City County government, 25,000 was deposited in the Kubudo account. Another check, second transaction, 25 deposited, 25 deposited. Fourth transaction, there was a cash withdrawal from Cooperative Bank, 125,000. monies meant for poor students withdrawn in cash by proxies for MCAs, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the scandal did not stop there. My first month in office, page 238, transaction number 1, Mr. Chair. You can see it there. Check from Nairobi City County Government, 25,000. Second transaction, check from Nairobi City County, 25,000. Deposit to this fake school, 25,000. There are so many transactions, Mr. Chair. 25,000, 25,000. But Mr. Chair, I want to refer the House to the third last transaction on page 238 on the 6th September 2017, Mr. Chair, I apologize, 2017, my first month in office, Mr. Chair. All these checks which were deposited, Mr. Chair, yeah, various checks, as you can see, page 238 from the top towards the bottom, 1, 2, 3, fourth last transaction. You can see all this money was withdrawn in cash by Job Omondi. I think it's the PA to the MCA Karen. He withdrew, Mr. Chair, 449,000 in cash. The following day, he went to a different branch, cargo branch. He withdrew another 25,000, Mr. Chair. So the statements are self-explanatory, Mr. Chair. We go again to page 241. 241. Page 241, Mr. Chair. Again, checks from Nairobi City County Government, transaction number 1, 19th September 2017. You can see the trend, Mr. Chair. Various checks from Nairobi City County Government were deposited, yeah, in favor of this fake school, fake account opened by MCAs, Mr. Chair. You can see there are several transactions there, 25,000. The same PA to MCA withdrew the money in cash, 900,000, on the 21st September 2017, Mr. Chair. So on page 243, Mr. Chair, the various checks where the mover was complaining, the checks which I refused to release. There is a check in favor of Kobuto Educational Center. The check is for City Hall Branch Cooperative Bank. Amount is 25,000. Account is Nairobi City County. But you see the check, why, Mr. Speaker, we refuse to release this, any further checks. The check was dated 26th April 2017. And it was deposited on 9th September 2018. They are forging and backdating these checks, Mr. Chair.
Excellency, you've shown the House various transactions with deposits and withdrawals. Would you say, by any means, that you have failed to disburse bursary?
No, Mr. Chair, because at this juncture, there were numerous complaints from parents, yeah, from various wards, Mr. Chair. And they were raising this complaint that their checks were issued, but they were not released to the various schools, Mr. Chair, countrywide. So, Mr. Chair, what the mover did not tell us, the reason why I refused to release these checks. This was one of the major reasons, Mr. Chair, as to why I refused to release these checks. The matter was subject to investigations. We engaged the DCI, the Banking Fraud Department, and the truth was finally discovered, Mr. Chair.
Now, then I'll take you to the second lib of the charge for gross violation of the Constitution and the law. It is the mover's allegation that you, as the governor for Nairobi, have violated Article 10
Mr. Chair, after unearthing this scandal and all the suspects were arraigned in court, we came up with a new law, Mr. Chair. This is one of the documents which have been refused to table. I'll just mention it for the purposes of handset. Mr. Chair, we came with this law, the Public Finance Management into brackets Nairobi City County Bursary and Scholarship Fund Regulation. I'll just mention, I'll not table.
Yeah, there is an intervention here. Yes, what's your...
We have an objection on the document the witness is relying on. We do not have the advantage of service of that particular document, so we have no ability of leading any evidence in rebuttal of that documents. We highly object to the witness relying on the documents not before this tribunal.
Yes,
Mr. Chair,
there's an intervention also by one of your counsel.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we allowed them to refer to communication and documents from their mobile phones. When I rose to object, the response was, raise that in your cross. 1. 2, they served us late with their documents. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we are entitled to call a public document because this is in their county assembly, with respect.
Further, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is common knowledge that each person is expected to know the law. That is a statute by the county assembly. And for that matter, it is not just any other document. And the witness is making reference to a statute. Then that goes to the benefit of everybody, including this House. And he's indicated that it's one of the documents that we could not produce, but it is the law. The law ought to be placed in public, and law can always be cited. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, it seems to be...
One thing, we as long as it's an enacted law, we have no problem. But we have seen them relying even on bills that are still pending before these houses. So let us be led to the law that the witness is relying on. We'll be much obliged to reply as and when our time comes. As long as it's a law duly enacted, we have no problem, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, that's a sideshow.
Okay.
Already we've made our point that it's a law.
Oh, it's a law, okay. You will look at
It's
it.
not a
Okay,
bill.
proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the Public Finance Management into brackets Nairobi City County Bursary and Scholarship Fund Regulation, Mr. Speaker. Section 10 and 11 states that the Executive Committee shall thereafter issue the necessary bank instructions that shall cause the lump sum payments to be effected by the paying bank to the relevant bank accounts of the beneficiary institutions of learning as prepared by the various county committees. This is where the problem between myself and the MCA started, Mr. Chair. B, Mr. Speaker, the relevant details of the successful applicants shall be communicated to the paying bank by the Executive Committee while issuing instructions for payment, Mr. Speaker. These are the precautions we raised after discovering that the release of checks direct to MCS, we were losing a lot of money, Mr. Chair. The last one, Mr. Chair, Section 11. Executive Committee shall cause preparation of the bursary voucher bearing the following details. A, full name of the learning institution, Mr. Chair, whether it's a school. B, Mr. Chair, full name of the student. C, Mr. Chair, admission number of the students. D, Mr. Chair, the bursary amount to be disbursed in favor of the beneficiaries' students to every school, Mr. Chair. This was just a method to curb the misappropriation of funds by MCS. Again, Mr. Speaker, I will refer to the statement, which you are not producing because of your ruling. But in this statement, Mr. Chair, we remitted funds to all the schools, all the beneficiaries, the students, via RTGS.
Are you referring to, we didn't admit it?
Mr. Speaker, you didn't allow us to...
So if we didn't allow it, then
we had
you
80
can...
copies of each, but the problem, Mr. Speaker, there are evidence that they also brought it at night.
Let him identify the document for purposes of identification. Let him identify the document.
You disallowed us, Mr. Speaker,
All
to, but
documents have been identified.
Okay,
Yeah,
we have the law, Mr.
Yeah,
Speaker.
yeah, the law is okay, but if we didn't allow
The
that one,
certified statement from the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. We have 80 copies. If we are allowed, we can supply to each and every senator, Mr. Speaker. Based on your ruling, Mr. Speaker, we are not able to supply
Yeah,
this.
not
but we have
now.
them here.
Not now.
Satisfied, Mr. Speaker. Today's date.
Mr. Speaker, in relation to that document, I would request that this house, being a house that deals with matters touching on the county governments, it may just have that document for its information at some point, even if it's not going to relate the same to the impeachment proceedings.
In addition, Mr. Speaker, even the mover himself. On
Kazo, take your seat. Allowed you to. That's what we are discouraging, just crossing over. Yes.
the mover, Mr. Speaker, and his own side shows to divert this attention, serious issue of diverting bursary funds. All his beneficiaries from his ward benefited from these bursary funds after we unearthed the scandal. We did RTGS to all the banks, and all the students from Embakasi, his ward, benefited and have the full list of beneficiaries, Mr. Speaker, in this statement.
Okay, but we have not admitted it yet. So.
For the Hansard purposes, Mr. Speaker.
Now, Your Excellency, I had referred you to the second limb of the charge on gross violation of the Constitution and the law, and any other law. That is 1B, where it is alleged that as Governor of Nairobi, you violated Article 10, Article 201, A, B, and D of the Constitution by failing and refusing and neglecting to comply with the provisions of Regulation 20 of the Public Finance Management County Governments Regulations 2015, which failure, refusal, and or negligence has compromised the provision of services envisaged under Part 2 of the fourth schedule of the Constitution, inter alia, most crucial provision of health services during the raging pandemic.
That is not.
Okay. And I would request that you answer the same together with C, where it is alleged that as Governor for Nairobi, you have violated Article 187(2)A of the Constitution and Article 5.2 of the Deed of Transfer by your continued willful refusal to execute the statutory warrants essential in the release of funds from the County Revenue Fund, which has granted the provision of services not only in the county executive but of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. What would you say?
Mr. Chair, these are just side shows. Mr. Chair, pursuant to Article 96 of the Constitution, Mr. Chair, this House, through its, I think, Health Committee chaired by Senator Mbito for Trans Nzoia, a couple of weeks ago, we appeared, Mr. Chair, before the Senate. There was a stalemate on the release of funds. Mr. Chair, I'd like to refer this Honorable House, Mr. Chair, to affidavit marked 10E, I think page 106, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the CS Treasury is on record confirming. In fact, there is a letter CS Ukuri attorney wrote to NMS General Body and a copy to us, confirming that there was no legal framework for Treasury or county government, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, to disburse funds to NMS, Mr. Chair. So as Mr. Chair, we are being impeached because we are obeying the law. We are obeying the Constitution. these people want us to break the law, just the way it happened during the mess scandal during the Ministry of Health, Mr. Chair. We were forced from our allocations to release money direct to the national government. Yeah, Mr. Chair. This money was used to purchase health equipment. Some of them were never supplied to counties, Mr. Chair. And in the report, Mr. Chair, this House, Honorable Senate, recommended that some senior officers in government should be charged. Ministers, PSs should be charged, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to refer the committee to that particular page, I think 106, affidavit number 10, I think.
Yes, an intervention by Senator Khaniri.
Speaker, I had to intervene the governor, but I expect the governor, having been a member of this House, knows how to address the chair. He's kept referring to you as Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, and I think that is wrong. The governor knows the rules of this House. This is the Speaker, not the Chair. So we must have our records correctly.
I apologize for that, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, sir. This is the committee of the whole.
You are apologizing by repeating the same mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. And Council, you will need know the time. We are trying to manage time, so try to guide the governor so that you're able to cover as much ground as possible to allow also cross-examination. Okay.
I'm guided, Mr. Speaker. Now, you referred to a letter from the CS Treasury.
Yes.
A letter in document marked 10E.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Before this letter, there was another letter.
What's the date of that letter?
30th of November 2020. The letter is dated 30th November 2020 after my impeachment motion in the County Assembly. And one of the grounds for my impeachment was that I
Who is the author of that letter?
The author of this letter, Mr. Speaker, is CS Treasury.
What is the letter about?
The letter, Mr. Chair, which we received on 4th of December 2020, still after my impeachment by the County Assembly.
Yes.
It is addressed to Major General Badi. Okay, first addressed to me. My Honorable Mike's reference number is there. And then addressed to Governor Mike Sonko and General Badi, Director General NMS. And reference is framework for financing transferred functions, Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members.
Yes, what does the letter entail?
In brief, Mr. Chair, in the essence of time, the Minister or CS Treasury is admitting that the AG and his office have now come up with a legal framework, and they're advising me now to release the funds to NMS, Mr. Chair.
Senator, there's an intervention by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Let's consult in low tones.
Could you clarify, because that letter is not in 10E. The letter is not in 10E, Mr. Nyamu. Oh, the volume is too low. Okay, the volume is now high.
I think the senator is in a different
10E.
affidavit. Just go to 10.
10? It's 10E.
I want to apologize, Mr. Speaker. I think the letter is not paginated. The affidavit is not paginated.
It's not,
Maybe
yes.
due to
The document is not paginated, unfortunately, and I
last
apologize for that.
Oh.
But the letter is...
4, 5, wait, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The last 10 pages, Mr. Speaker. Come from the last page, count 1, 2, 3 to 10. You'll find the letter there. From the last, from the back page.
This one. Yeah, My learned friend is showing me that his is paginated and it's page 106 of the bundle.
Actually, I mentioned about that. Thank you, Council, for the mover.
Page 106 of the bundle marked 10E. Yes, so what are you saying in relation to that letter? Did you have legal framework as at 26th of November 2020 when the motion was initiated?
No, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, because there is another letter also, which was also stopped from producing. The minister was telling Director General NMS not to release any funds. But in this letter dated 30th November 2020 and received on 4th December 2020 after my impeachment motion, the Treasury is advising us to release the funds to NMS because they have now come with a legal framework for the release of money, which is still contrary to Section Article 219 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, honorable members.
Now, on the matter touching on execution of warrants, to pave way for release of funds for the operations of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services.
Number B.
Were there any hiccups or disputes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. There are so many hiccups and disputes. Because everybody who's supporting NMS, Mr. Speaker, is always talking about Article 187A. They're not focusing towards the end, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, of this article which talks about the transfer of functions, Article 187.2b, Mr. Chair, which I'll just want to read, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Even if you can see in my accusations, number B, I'm being accused for defying Article 187.1a. But 187.2b, Mr. Speaker, which I'm about to read to the Honorable House, states as follows. I'm aware that 187.1a talks about the deed of transferred functions to be transferred, funds to follow these functions. But Mr. Speaker, towards the end of this same article, 187.2b states constitutional responsibility for the performance of the function or exercise of the power shall remain with the government to which it is assigned by the fourth schedule. Mr. Speaker, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, there were so many illegalities, Mr. Speaker, which were being committed, Mr. Speaker, by NMS and senior officials in Treasury. A very good example, Mr. Speaker, this was not the first budget, the 7 billion budget for me to reject, Mr. Speaker, because I believe in the rule of law, Mr. Speaker. I respect the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, a couple of months ago, they brought a similar illegal budget, a supplementary one, Mr. Speaker, of 15 billion. I have no problem, Mr. Speaker, with the transferred functions. Let them take the money of the transferred functions, Mr. Speaker. But it is wrong for them to interfere with the 6 functions which I'm left with, Mr. Speaker. Bursary fund, Mr. Speaker. Poor students, we used to give them between 10,000 to 20,000, Mr. Speaker. But now we'll end up giving them 800 bob because they have taken everything, Mr. Speaker. Money for disaster, fuel for our fire engines, Mr. Speaker, money for constructing stadiums, Mr. Speaker, social halls, technical universities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to, you just allow me for the purposes of Hansard, Mr. Speaker. This is one of the documents, and I want to confirm which we have not produced. But for purposes of records, Mr. Speaker, just allow me to just capture, just...
No, orders. If they are not...
Okay,
if you
Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
So, Mr. Speaker, in that similar budget, I refuse to accent. It was passed again illegally. There is the 2/3 majority. Accented, gazetted by the government printer. Mr. Speaker, I wrote a protest letter to the Attorney General, Solicitor General, explained that this is an illegality committed. And for the first time, Mr. Speaker, the Solicitor General concurred with me in his response. I'll not table the letter. He concurred with me in the response. He replied the letter to Director General, NMS, all the relevant authorities, control of budget, Treasury CS, and the government printer. And the AG advised the government printer, the governor is right, degazette this budget. And Mr. Chair, it was degazetted. We were called in State House. The president himself called me. I told him, Your Excellency, you are being misled. These guys have taken everything. I just donated my functions because of the court cases which I'm facing. I was told that I'm going to be helped. We are going to work together with the president. I was not told that the general is going to take over these functions, Mr. Chair.
Now, Your Excellency, are there pending disputes on the question of the warrants or appropriation in relation to NMS?
Mr. Speaker, there are so many pending disputes. As we are speaking, Mr. Speaker, the High Court vied petition number E348 of 2020 before the Honorable Justice Murima has suspended the Nairobi City County Appropriation Act 2020.
Do you have the document there? Do you have the pleading there?
Yes, we have the document, Mr. Speaker.
What page is it?
Page 369 of volume 2, from 369?
369
I think 305. The matter came up for mention,
of 10H.
and the orders were
Mr.
extended.
Speaker. Go to the document, please.
Page 367, I think it's marked as GM19 of volume 2, Mr. Speaker. Court order, ruling number 1, delivered delivered on, I think, the 7th of December, Mr. Speaker. A court order, Mr. Speaker, yes. It's a court ruling, Mr. Speaker.
In which case is that ruling?
Sorry?
In which case is that ruling?
In this case, Mr. Speaker, the Nairobi City County government is the petitioner, suing NMS, AG, General Badi himself, various generals from the military who have taken over some various functions in the county, General Frederick Lerura, General Mbuvi, General Nyakundi, General Njoroge, General Biomdo, General Musoma, Kangete Tuku, CS, Department of National Treasury, Department of Devolution, Nairobi City County Assembly, and the Controller of Budgets. We all sued them, Mr. Speaker, and the court agreed with us that there was an illegality which was performed. And
Mr. Speaker, the witness is referring to the document marked Volume 2. Volume 2B, the affidavit of the governor, the document marked D, Volume 2, page 369. Yes, so what happened in that case?
The entire act, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, was suspended temporarily pending the hearing and determination of our petition, Mr. Speaker, honorable members.
Is there any other dispute that is pending before any other organ?
Mr. Speaker, there are so many cases which were filed in court by various stakeholders in court, which are awaiting determination and hearing, Mr. Speaker. We also registered a dispute with the intergovernmental okay, the letter was captured in the ruling of Mrima. Because, Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat myself. We just donated our functions to the national government. And I want to repeat again, we have no problem in giving money to the transferred functions. There are only 4 transferred functions, Mr. Speaker. We are left with over 5, around 6. So we wanted as well to be given money to serve Nairobians in other sectors, Mr. Speaker.
So as it says, Your Excellency, have those matters been concluded for you to proceed to?
No, Mr. Speaker, the matters are still active in court. They have not been concluded.
Now, I would wish to take you to the 4th limb of the charge on gross violation of the Constitution and the law. That is 1B, where it is alleged that you, as Governor for Nairobi, have violated Article 183 of the Constitution as read with the Public Finance Management Act. It is stated that you have refused or failed to implement resolutions of the County Assembly or forward a report detailing your inability to do so, in line with Article 183 of the Constitution, as read together with the Standing Orders number 193, with respect to county public debts and debt management under the provisions of Section 123 of the Public Finance Management Act. And it has been alleged that the debt for the Nairobi County has now risen to 76 billion as at 31st December 2019. What would you say?
This is a sideshow, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. This is a lie, just to divert attention of the real issues, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? We formed, I'm the first governor. I think my administration is the first administration to form a pending bills committee, Mr. Speaker, to address all the pending bills, Mr. Speaker. And I remember very vividly, Mr. Speaker, we appointed the former EACC chairman, PLO Lumumba, to be the chair. There was a co-chair, Eric Mutua, and various representatives from DCI offices, SUPCAM. Mr. Speaker, I want to refer this Honorable House to page 12 to 13 of, I think, my affidavit, marked 1. Then from there, we'll also go to
that
another.
That is 10H, honorable members and the Speaker.
Where is it?
The document marked 10H, page 12 to 13, Mr. Speaker. Yes, what is on those pages? Page 12 and 13.
Mr. Speaker, page 12. talks about the part we played in addressing the huge pending bills Nairobi County was having by the time, Mr. Speaker, I was sworn in as the governor of Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter pursuant to Article 96 was also handled by this House. And we successfully, Mr. Speaker, addressed the issue. And this House was satisfied with how we are addressing this issue. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I'll refer the ICT team to a clip on the pending bills at the Senate. Can we hear that clip, please?
Now, kindly refer to page 220 of that particular document. Kindly refer to page 214. To page
I think it's there.
220.
It's there. We can start the clip also as I refer to the. Start the clip again. My first month in office, Mr. Chair, 2017. We are the first county, Mr. Even before the president gave a directive, an executive directive to the county to clear pending bills, we had made an effort of clearing these pending bills, Mr. Chair. In my first month in office, Mr. Chair, 2017. We are the first county, Mr. Chair, to form the pending bills committee. And Mr. Chair, Constitution Nairobi, the culture which is there, if you want to pay a pending bill, it was there during my predecessor's time. If a contractor passes with 10%, the following day, he gets his payments effected from the bank. This was 64 billion pending bills, Mr. Chair. If I wanted to make money to be part and parcel of the cartels, I could have received the 6 billion up from 10% and paid the 64 billion. But because Nairobi is bigger than Governor Sonko, we decided to go to court. And what happened after the court ruling, Mr. Chair? The pending bills of 64 billion was reduced to 23 billion. Meaning, tulishaidia pesa ya umma over 40 billion, Mr. Chair. So this is a very big effort, a move forward, which we made with my government, Mr. Chair. So we table the petition before the High Court, the moratorium order, then the pending bills committee, which was formed in early 2017, chaired by Pierre Lumumba and Eric Mutua, we shall table. Also, Mr. Chair, we should table a document from Treasury named Nairobi City County Financial Recovery Plan, dated 24th April 2018, signed by Principal Secretary, National Treasury, P.S. Tuge, which highlighted all the pending bills, Mr. Chair, all the statutory claims, but we're just jumping the summary of the pending bills committee executed by Pierre Lumumba and Eric Mutua. Generally, we shall table, what is this?
Judgment, reducing.
The judgment, reducing one of the sensitive pending bills claims by Salima, garnishing our bank operating bank, we wanted to take this money at source, but we fought against this. We have a ruling in our favor. The 600 million claim was also set aside by court. Another garnishee for 90 million against us from a claimant in Jenga. This was quashed from the initial. I think ICT can forward the clip. We go to the end. The submission by the final decision by the chair of the committee. So we went and challenged that.
Governor Nandi, there were senators before.
Okay,
they
okay.
No problem they used to undergo. You have been giving us concrete and bring down the general so that we can put these issues them that
okay, is that okay?
Yes. So
the fact that you budget 60 to 70 confirms that you can build a solution to this problem. Chair who borrowed from Shylocks 200,000
I think, Mr. Chair,
yeah,
in the interest of time, the committee chair, they even honorable senators who are sitting in that committee, they even complimented us
So when there are
For the-
staggered-
Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the witness, that is His Excellency, had wished to have the clip forwarded to capture the ruling of this particular House on that issue.
And by the way, you have 1 hour left, and that includes cross-examination. So you better, thought I should let you know.
No, Mr. Speaker. If the document, if that clip could be forwarded to the point where the ruling is.
Mr. Chair, I think in summary, the entire committee concurred with us. We managed to reduce our pending bills, Mr. Chair. Actually, it was not 57 billion as alleged by the mover of the impeachment motion. He was just copy-pasting problems which have already been sorted at the Senate, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we managed to reduce our pending bills after we formed this constitutional pending bills committee. And a very important point, Mr. Chair, some of the bills which were raised, because at some point I accompanied the pending bills committee to one of their, when they were going to check the projects in the slum areas. There's an area where it was alleged that there was a bridge that was constructed and a social hall to the tune of 300 million. But we went to the site, Mr. Chair, there was nothing that was on the site. Even a foundation stone was not put on the site. And Mr. Chair, because of that process, we managed to reduce our bills, pending bills, from 64 billion, Mr. Chair, to 23 billion, Mr. Chair.
Now, there is a document appearing on page 214 to 220 in the in your evidence marked 10H.
Yes.
Would you state what that document is in relation to this particular charge?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a document by the National Treasury and Planning in a meeting that all governors were invited in State House to address the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and government's intervention measures, Mr. Chair, and the presentation to the national and county governments coordinating summit, Mr. Chair.
Is a question of was there a reference to pending bills?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Report.
There was a reference. There was a reference to pending bills, Mr. Chair, page 220 of the same report.
Yes.
The Treasury summarized all the pending bills for all the counties, all the 47 counties, Mr. Chair, starting with Baringo.
Yes. Specifically.
Ending with Taita Taveta.
Specifically look at Nairobi.
And specifically, Mr. Chair, if you go to Nairobi, you'll find out the mover of this motion was lying to this House. He was lying to the public. He was tarnishing my name. He was destroying, Mr. Chair, my character with false accusations, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, specifically, as you can see, the bills on Nairobi, they are not 57 billion as the mover alleged, lying to the world, Mr. Chair. As you can see, the first column, eligible pending bills, Mr. Chair. Nairobi had 11 billion, 783 million, 829,072 cents, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, 11 billion, 783 million, 829,072 cents.
Yes, and how much has been paid so far?
And so far, Mr. Chair, the effort we have made, we have so far paid 4 billion, 631 million, 491, 266 cents, Mr. Chair.
So how
and this is
much
a summary from Treasury.
How much is outstanding?
In fact, we have already paid another 4 billion which is not captured here, Mr. Chair. Meaning, the balance captured by the Treasury, by the time all governors were summoned in State House, was 7 billion, Mr. Chair, 7.1 billion. And we have paid another 4 billion, which is not captured, meaning our pending bills by now will be less than 4 billion, Mr. Chair.
Is that summary by the Treasury anywhere close to the figure alleged to be pending
No.
this particular charge?
No, Mr. Chair. And an important point in the instance of time, because the mover raised very grievous allegations, Mr. Chair. I also beg, Mr. Chair, this Honorable House also to accord us time when we're handling grievous issues, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the national government owes us over 300 billion. I want to compliment Senator for Nairobi, Senator Sakaja. At some point, he was pushing for the release of these funds. And I remember very vividly, Mr. Chair, at some point we had a meeting in the State House with the President, CS Rotich, PSN Rithuge. We have some undertakings. We did a document, Nairobi City County Recovery, Financial Recovery Plan. We at some point agreed on a debt swap, meaning the money the national government owes us, the debt, statutory debts from various government agencies like KRA, we have a loan for 4 billion from KCB. The government was ready to pay this money on our behalf so that we do what is called a debt swap. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, before that process was concluded, Minister Henry Rotich had some problems, PS Tuge, I think they were fired. I'll come to that, we have got those documents somewhere. So this is a clear indication, Mr. Chair, during my time, I had made progress in settling the pending bills for Nairobi County. And this House, Mr. Chair, still, pursuant to Article 96, you have...
Don't you use your... Yes, what's your intervention, Senator Wario? Yours is working?
Oh, yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to inform Senator Sonko to...
Governor.
Governor Sonko, to refer you to be as Speaker, not Chairman. He is keeping on referring you as Chairman. Chairman. Yes, thank you.
I thought it was a committee of the whole. I'm sorry for that. I apologize.
No, Speaker, I think stick to Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we hope,
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, with utmost respect, will be given some additional 30 minutes because of the interjections that
No,
are
it can't be 30. It can't be. Just utilize your time properly. That was a half a second.
We'll try, Mr. Speaker. Now, in summary, Your Excellency, Governor, is that particular charge founded? Does that charge have any foundation?
No, because the matter was addressed by Senate, by the national government.
Does it have any foundation in terms of the figures and the allegations made?
No, no, Mr. Speaker.
Now, I wish to move to the next limp of the charge, where it is alleged that you violated Article 2271 of the Constitution on Procurement of Goods and Services, as read together with the provisions of the Public Procurement and Disposals Act 215, by flouting the principles of public finance management in as far as public procurement of goods and services is concerned. Where the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, PPRA, faulted the procurement processes for the construction of Dandora Stadium, the authority flagged irregularities in the awarding of the tender, alteration of contract specifications, suspected irregularities in payment, and forgery of documents. And that despite technical evaluations questioning paying 196.87 million for the contractor. Now, Honorable Governor,
Yes.
are you at any given time involved in procurement matters?
No, Mr. Chair, not at all. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry again.
Do you have, just listen to my question, do you have accounting officers charged with the responsibility of dealing with procurement in your government?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Section 103 of the PFM Act, I appointed CEC Finance, who also appointed chief officers to be in charge of all the departments within the county government of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker.
Now, have you dealt with the procurement in relation to Dandora directly as an accounting officer?
Not at all, Mr. Speaker.
Have you ever signed any voucher towards payment of any monies in relation to Dandora?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Have you been involved in the signing of any contract in relation to Dandora?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Now, have you ever been summoned by the county assembly in line with the exercise of oversight under Article 185 on the question of the contracts in relation to Dandora?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Now, I'll move to the next question. So, is this charge sustainable in view of your role as governor vis-a-vis the roles of CEC, finance, and other accounting officers?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Now, Charge 1F, it is alleged that you violated Section 35 and 45 of the County Government Act as read with the Section 104 and Section 148 of the Public Finance Management Act between 2018 and 2019, and contrary to the law, the office of the County Executive Committee member for Finance and that of the Chief Officer for Finance were held by the same person, one Winfred Kathangu, which situation occasioned confusion and inefficiencies at the county treasury, hence failing to promote good governance and compromising the doctrine of transparency and accountability in the county government.
No.
What would you say?
No, Mr. Speaker. But at this juncture, Mr. Speaker, for any senior officer to act in any acting capacity is not an offense, Mr. Speaker. A good example, Mr. Speaker. When CS for Finance Henry Rotich was arraigned in court, His Excellency the President appointed CS Ukuri Atani, who was then I think the Minister for Labor, to act as the the CS Treasury, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, even again after that, Ms. Winnie Kathangu ceased to act as CEC Finance. She was promoted to the position of CEC Agriculture. Her name, I forwarded her name myself to the County Assembly, and they confirmed her, Mr. Speaker, to a new position as CEC Agriculture. I want to confirm to this House today we have a substantive CEC for Finance, Mr. Alan Igambi. We have a substantive Chief Officer Finance, a position which was also held by Madam Winnie Kathangu, Mr. Speaker.
Now, during the time when Winnie Kathangu was acting, before she was confirmed by the Assembly, was there any loss occasioned to the county government as a consequence of the time when she was acting?
Repeat the question, please.
Now, was there any prejudice occasioned to the county government during the time when she was acting as CC Finance before she was confirmed?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Was any issue raised by the county assembly on the same?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Now, I'll move to F. I'll move to H. G and H. Now, it is alleged at 1H that as governor for Nairobi, you violated Section 104 of the Public Finance Act on the responsibilities and powers of the county treasury.
Yes, proceed.
Where through inaction, action, or commission,
yes,
you continue to preside over a broken public finance management system where the county treasury remains ineffective despite various resolutions of the county assembly urging you to improve efficiencies by decentralizing the finance function in the sectors as required by the provisions of Section 148 of the Public Finance Management Act, and that as a consequence of the same, the county continues to operate in contravention of the law. Now, do you have CECs, being the accounting officers, appointed? Do you have chief officers appointed as county accounting officers by the CEC Finance in line with Section 148?
Repeat the question.
Do you have accounting officers in place?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Duly appointed by the CEC Finance?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So, is there a breakdown?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Has any breakdown been shown to exist?
No, Mr. Speaker.
What would you say about that charge?
Mr. Speaker, again, I refer this House, in the interest of time, I don't want to do a lot of explanations, to the Controller of Budget Report on Volume 3D. Mr. Speaker, page 626. And the ICC should prepare a clip. The same day I appeared in Senate, the clip where I was standing answered the same question before the Senate. ICT prepared that clip. Page 626, Mr. Speaker.
Page 626 of the volume 3.
Volume 3.
And Council, how?
Volume 3. Volume 3D. Volume 3D.
Document marked D. D3.
Council, how long do you want to take to conclude the examination in chief?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to cover 2 more areas, then I'll let my colleague, Mr. Odieki, to take over.
So that will be how long? Answer my question.
I should take another 20 minutes, then I hand over.
Is there an intervention there?
Mr. Speaker, I hope the 20 minutes Mr. Nyamo is speaking about is within the period that you prescribed. Maybe for us to be able to plan, you might want to inform us how much more time they have.
Yeah, I will check that. Yeah, we are checking. Just proceed. I'll let you know.
Yes. So now proceed. I hope honorable members have gotten the document, Mr.
ICT.
Speaker.
Yeah, the one standing.
You have.
But the problem is, remember, immediately my predecessor was put in 2013. I started fighting him because I wanted to be the governor and I'm not going to be the governor. Why am I saying this, Mr. Chair? Just the other day, my brother, who is not here to speak for himself, through a press conference in Parliament, he raised very grievous allegations against my administration, saying that the revenue in Nairobi County has drastically reduced compared to that last previous year. And I have the report from the control of budgets on the implementation of budget review of all the 47 counties. And Mr. Chief, if you go to page 196 of the report by the control of budgets, just one sentence, it clearly says, the county, the government of Nairobi, generated a total of 10.25 billion from all source revenue in financial year 2018-2019. This amount represented an increase of 139 million compared to that realized in 2017-2018. That was 66.1% of the annual budget. These are the facts. That has been oversighted using facts, Mr. Chair. Last one, Mr. Chair. It was also said, I don't want to mention names, that there is left right and center in our response of ours. There is no development which is being seen. When the same level of budget, page 197, she is saying, because she was working with Odiapo by then, and there is a chart here showing an increment of improve in the absorption of the 30% development funds, where the previous rate was 2.1 billion. This financial year, Mr. Chair,
Okay, Mr. Chair, in the essence of time, we can stop that clip.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Council, you have a total of 40 minutes left, so you must finish the examination in chief within 20 minutes.
Okay, Mr.
Now, Your Excellency, the Governor.
Yes.
That clip that has been played, where was that forum?
That was Senate, and I was explaining the controller of budgets report and the observations that were made by the controller of budgets. Our revenue, we did well in revenue, increased. As per the attached document in the affidavit, also improvement in the use of IFMIS and internet banking to processing financial transactions, Mr. Chair. Also, if you go to 3308, observation and recommendation by the control of budget, the county made progress in addressing some of the challenges previously identified in the implementation of budgets. Some of the progress made included improved compliance with Article 207 of the Constitution of Kenya regarding depositing funds at source in terms of revenue collection into the CRF account, Mr. Chair. There is a chart provided by the COB, which has explained everything, Mr. Chair. Another important point, which I would like to mention at this juncture, and that, remember, Mr. Speaker, is the controller of budget, not Sonko, not the county government of Nairobi. A total of 20.4 billion was spent on both development and recurrent activities, Mr. Speaker. This expenditure represented 120.3% of the total funds released from CRF amount, and was an increase of 19.8% from Kenya shillings 88.4% recorded in the last financial year 2017-2018, Mr. Speaker. 3119 presents a comparison between, okay, that's a graph, Mr. Speaker, but there is also, Mr. Speaker, an improvement in development expenditure, which recorded an absorption of 78.9%, which was an increase from 26.1% attained in the financial year 2017-2018. Conversely, Mr. Speaker, recurrent expenditure represented 90.8% of the annual recurrent budget, an increase from 88% recorded in financial year 2017-2018, Mr. Speaker.
So now,
the document is in the public domain, Mr. Speaker.
Would you wish to have that document relied upon by the Senate when it retires to look at, to consider this particular motion?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Now, before I hand you over to my learned friend, Mr. Odieki and Mr. Kinyanjui, would you confirm that your systems are up and running?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, our systems are up and running.
Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I'll hand over the mantle to my learned friends to finalize.
I hope you have noted the timelines I gave.
Mr. Speaker, as it is, and as you appreciate that in the doctrine of fair trial and in ensuring that the governor gets adequate time to defend himself, and he's the one that is actually is like an accused person. Mr. Speaker, we urge the honorable members in this House, in view of the interjections that were made, to at least give us some additional time.
You cannot attribute that to interjections because I've also been monitoring. Just use your skills to deliver, be spot on, and cut out a lot of stories that may not add value to what we are prosecuting.
Mr. Speaker, as it is, the documents that were served upon the Speaker the day before yesterday are quite many. And as it is, for him to deal with those questions and the charges, as many as they are, in as much as there are four, they are in limbs, Mr. Speaker. And you've seen from his testimony, he's been dealing with he's been dealing with answers document by document. And that has taken quite some time, Mr. Speaker. This is an impeachment proceeding where his fundamental rights are likely to be affected, and also the democratic rights of the people of Nairobi. So I would ask Mr. Speaker to extend lenience in relation to His Excellency the Governor and give him additional time.
Next, Councillor Evans, take over. There's Evans here. Let him proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, and the Senate, I'm going to have military precision so that we cover more territory. Governor, before you conclude what you are doing, I want to take you to page 582. We are dealing with still the book was dealing with volume D3. Page 582, please. Very quickly. (582, 583). Volume D3. D, volume 3. No, this is 10 D2. 10 D2. Sorry. I'm saying volume D, volume 3, at page 582, 583. Are you there, Governor? No. It is written 10D, 10D2 at the top. Are you there?
No.
You are there? 582.
Yes.
It starts at 581. 581. 582.
Yes.
583.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at page 583, the World Bank praised you for implementing several projects in the city. 583 at the top. 583.
This no. This is the control of budget. Come, control of budget, not worry. Yes, control of budget. I think the highest expenditure.
Can you read the bottom of the page? Just one sentence. The praise you received from the controller of budget for implementing government projects.
Yeah, the last part. Let me read it.
It started the county attained the highest expenditure.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker. It reads, the county that attained highest expenditure in absolute terms were Nairobi City County at 29.4 billion.
Yes. You can even stop there. So even the Director of Budget appreciated your good work in terms of expenditure. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, go to the next page. The European Commission awarded you with the highest distinction for recovering grabbed land. That is the cemetery.
Which page?
Then the next page. The photo in the next page.
Yes.
Yeah? Can you
Yes.
confirm that?
Yes.
Your Lordship, you mean, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is page 584. You received the highest honor from the European Commission for recovering public land that had been grabbed. Cemetery.
This was in
Commonwealth Cemetery.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Correct? Then I want to take you to page 610, the same document. 610. 610. You've been accused that you facilitated your daughter to travel, pretending that she was a sub-county officer. Page 610.
Yeah.
Same document, page 610.
Yes, I'm there.
Are you there?
Yes.
The letter is from who?
The letter is from the Presidency, Executive Office of the President, Head of Public Service.
Head of Public Service.
Dated March 7th of March 2015.
2015.
Yes.
It is written to 2018. It is written to the Cabinet Secretary, Madam Kobia.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
In charge of public service.
Yes.
And what is the instruction?
The instructions from the Head of Public Service addressing the letter to Professor Margaret Kobia, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Youth, and General Affairs.
Yes.
reference is government delegation to the 62nd session of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 2018.
In New York.
Yes.
Is there anywhere there where your daughter is referred as a sub-county administrator?
No, Mr. Speaker.
So that is a creation of the move of the motion. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So your daughter traveled as a part of the government delegation, and the national government made part of the bills of the travel. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And then the other overheads were also made by the county, 611, page 611.
Yes, I can see that.
You can see the letter from the county to the embassy.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Isn't that correct?
Yes.
So the move of the motion lied that your daughter traveled on account of misrepresentation as a sub-county administrator. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Let me take you to another area very quickly.
614.
I want you to go to the same page.
614 also.
Okay, you go to 614, 614. You confirm that your wife traveled as First Lady of Nairobi City County.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
That's why she was included in the government delegation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And you can see at page 614,
yes,
that is the appeal. And that's why the last witness took interest to pay for that because it was an official delegation.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I wish to confirm to the House. This is an invoice where my wife and children and a daughter stayed in New York, the Dominic Hotel. The contacts for the hotel are there at the bottom of page 614, Mr. Speaker. And as you can see from the receipts, the numbers are there for confirmation. The invoice, my wife deposited at the hotel cash, not from the Nairobi City County government, although the trip was official and genuine because they were both part of the government delegation, confirmed by State House. But Mr. Chair, there was a cash deposit of $1,200 as deposit credit for rooms, meals. Then even at some point, my wife ran her own credit card. On page 615, the second last item, she ran her Visa card for another $1,500 payment. So the other things, even on page 616, and also the summary of page 617, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
The hotel is 246 Spring Street, New York.
Yes.
NY 10013. The phone number for the hotel is there. The physical address is there. The hotel is in US.
So
and I want to confirm.
Governor, you are telling the Senate that the issue was done in an open, transparent, and accountable manner.
But one thing I would like to bring to the attention of this House, even yesterday you saw in Citizen, how this was exaggerated. This is just a smear campaign, Mr. Speaker, by the system and the cartels in the county who have ganged up against me, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. The headline of Citizen, and I demand an apology from them all, we take them to court. They said my daughter spent $840 million, Mr. Speaker. Even that allegation is not even in the impeachment motion, Mr. Speaker. The amount in question is only $2.6 million. I don't know where Citizen TV got this figure of $840 million. My daughter hired choppers. There are no invoices of choppers here. She traveled by air from New York to Philadelphia. Those are just smear campaign, Mr. Speaker. Character assassination, Mr. Speaker, to tarnish my good name, Mr. Speaker. So you can see the whole story where it's coming from, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Mheshimiwa. Now we move to page 633. I want you to go to run through 633 to 6 so that I deal with that issue once and for all. To 643. It's the same document. Towards the end, yeah. Just go ahead. 633. Confirm that Mr. Evans Ondieki is one of your lawyers who was dealing with this matter.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You confirm that?
Yes.
And you gave him instructions to go and file your defense at the Nairobi City County Assembly.
Yes,
plus the accompanying document and evidence.
Yes, Mr.
And you can confirm from the photos in page 633 to 643 that he was denied access. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So you were never given a chance to hear, they never gave you a chance to hear your side of the story.
No, they never gave
They
me
didn't even give you a chance to file your documents.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
I will now take you to document number 1. This is the document number 1, and I want you to go to page 33. Your Lordship, sorry, the Honorable Senate, this is the affidavit. The affidavit which my colleague was using. I want you to go to page 30, page 59. The affidavit, the one written 1, affidavit number 1. Page? It is 10H, 10H, sorry, 10H. Page 59. Page 59. Mr. Governor, confirm that much earlier before this motion was initiated, you had written a letter to the Director of DCI requesting thorough investigation of the embezzlement of public funds by the County Assembly. If you are at page 59, Honorable Senators, you will see that. Had you done that before the motion? Much earlier?
Sorry? Yeah. It was, the letter was dated, Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Monday, 23rd November 2020. A complaint.
Yes.
To investigate embezzlement of funds, Nairobi City County. Letter is addressed to DCI.
Yes.
It was received on 23rd November 2020.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Now, you confirm that that is the nexus, that is the origin of your problems that led to these notes of motion to impeach you. Can you confirm that?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Now, quickly, I want to cover one more issue so that I donate my minutes to my colleague, because I think we have moved quite fast. I want you to answer this allegation from your heart. You've been accused. I know you are a father. You are a grandfather. You are a father-in-law. You've been accused that you molested workers and colleagues. And I want you from the bottom of your heart to answer that straight, whether you have ever harassed any workers.
No, Mr. Chair.
So all of these sensationalized accusations are meant to besmirch your reputation.
No, these are just accusations, Mr. Chair. In the instance of time, there were clips which we had prepared to be aired for members to confirm about the true story of all the events that was transpiring in the Nairobi City County. Mr. Speaker, my first month in office, I received some information from a county staff who was supposed to be my witness, but because of time and the manner which we are proceeding, the instance of time, she was not given a chance to come and adduce her evidence before this honorable house. My first month in office, Mr. Speaker, was tipped off that the staff at the cash office, they were stealing daily over or between 30 to 60 million a day, Mr. Speaker. The clips are in the public domain. The questions are in the public domain, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I personally decided to do an impromptu visit or inspection at the cash office. I went there with some of the officers, CID officers attached to the county. We also reported the matter to EACC. There are officers who also came. And Mr. Speaker, when we were conducting this search, we found it was true, because we found the county cashiers, some with money in their socks, suits. Mr. Speaker, we recovered around 30 million in cash, Mr. Speaker. Documents are there, but in the instance of time, I'll not go to that. Mr. Speaker, They were all arraigned in court. They went to High Court to challenge this decision by petition number 79 of 2017, Labor Relations Court, before Justice Helen Wasila. Their case was dismissed. The judge said the governor has a right of suspending, terminating services of any staff, provided there's a disciplinary action that was being taken, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
So we have got so many clips, but because of time, we can't.
Finally, Governor. One at the third president of the Republic of Kenya, one of the most respected African leaders, aliambia driver yake, pumbavu wewe, mafi ya kuku. Lakini the context was driver alikuwa na reverse in public. Clips were played here where people tried to play some remarks you made. Can you clarify to this Senate in what context you made some remarks? It's important that it comes out.
What is it, Council? You have not given you.
No, what I was saying on a light note, you are
No. There's a council who was standing.
I was saying that the freedom of speech allows us to speak. It depends on which context you are speaking. So I wanted him to clarify some things that were played here yesterday.
You know, you have now a total of 15 minutes.
I wanted my learned colleague to conclude, to cap it up. Just 5 minutes. Your Lordship, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is a process that is more complex. It's a political process. It is a Siamese twin, which is both political, judicial, and social. So it is actually, it's a difficult thing to deal with. You saw when they would try to impeach Trump, people were asking, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? So, Your Lordship, it is good. You have given us time, and we thank you. You have listened to us. Please, Mr.
Maybe, Mr. Speaker, before we move to the next question, I just want to air a 1 minute audio. ICT,
okay.
Because they aired clips, we just want to air one clip by Paul Kiiru, ICT. Paul Kiiru clip, similar matter which is in court.
Paul, habari yako? Wewe unaitwa Paul Kiiru? Mimi naitwa Governor Sonko.
Okay.
I've got 2 issues with you, my friend. Wewe bado ni kijana?
Yes.
Sitaki kuharibu unga yako na profession yako. Ile ukora ulikuwa unafanya zamani uachana naye. Unajua ile mambo mmefanya rates. Wewe na kina Joseph. So you know what you did? You tamper with the system, kunyima county revenue, munaregesha rates chini, watu hawalipi. I've got over 200 cases against you. But you are still young. I don't want to spoil your career. Can you assure me that we're going to stop?
Yes, we'll work on that.
You'll work on that?
Yes.
How soon are you going to stop it? Just I want you to wewe mwenyewe ni confirm you're going to stop those games, because tukiendelea kwa njia ile we are heading nowhere, my friend. Tukiendelea na njia ni makosa. Yeah? And me, I'm warning you. Already nishaandika complaint kwa DCI, but I just want to warn you to stop it. Start kuongeza cases mingi against you. Yeah? Yeah? Just tell your colleagues to stop it.
I'll do that.
Are we together?
Yes.
Wacheni hiyo ukora. Nyinyi ndio mnanichokoza wenyewe. Alafu mnasema kazi yangu ni kushika watu ovyo ovyo. Yeah? So where ndio Paul Kiiru? Na uko na mwanzako anaitwa Robert Okiri.
Yes.
Did you see my letter of complaint on that plot?
No, I haven't seen it. My colleague is on the manager sending it.
But it is you. But it is you and Robert ambaye mlikuwa approach na Joseph. Mwajua vile mlifanya mkatamba na system.
Okay, on my part, I'll make sure it's monitoring. Make sure nothing goes on.
Can that stop? Can we agree that can that stop from today?
Yes, I'll ensure it's monitoring.
Okay. I'm giving you a warning, and I'll also call your colleague, Robert Okiri. I want that to stop. Shughulikieni matumbo yenu na familia zenu. Wizi ya pesa ya umma tafadhali wachaneni naye. Nitawapeleka jela. Let this be the last warning. Na zile zote ziko kwa process, wachana nazo. Kama uko na shida, come to my office, face me, see me. Nitakusaidia. Please. ICTs are very sensitive dockets. Alafu jambo pay, the migration of data. Kutoka Saturday ianze. Inakuja, niko na intelligence yote, imekuja ikafika 75%, jambo pay conspire na wao mkazima. Ikaenda tena the next day, ikaenda the next day, ikafika 84%, ikazimwa tena.
Hao ndio walikuwa wakifanya transfer.
Yes. Yes.
So now that we decided, badala tu kuwasubiri, we will go and get the data ourselves bahadi. So that hiyo maneno ya kudependent kusema inakwama.
Yes.
At least to avoid the issue. So kuna barua ambayo ilifanywa. Tulikuwa tukisubiri tunaona here.
Okay, this is of time, Mr. Speaker. Because we're running out of time. These are normal conversations which I normally have with especially staff who are suspected to be corrupt. We normally give them warnings. Maybe the manner in which we are warning them, they change the story, then it becomes that the governor is intimidating the staff. This clip was captured or recorded in 2019. It's part of the ongoing proceedings in the criminal case in court, Mr. Speaker. I've got several clips, Mr. Speaker, my conversation with various, especially the women senior officers in the county, and there is nowhere we have abused or broken the law, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I will wind up in a few minutes because we have been given 20 minutes. And we have to plead that time with Mr. Ondieki, so I'll take no more than minutes.
It's 5 minutes, yeah.
5 minutes. Mr. Governor, sorry, Your Excellency the Governor, when you sent Advocate Ondieki to the County Assembly to represent you, had documents now relied upon by the County Assembly on allegations by the mover of the motion?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Yesterday we heard from Ms. Janet, your former CC for Education, that she had a deposition before this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, that deposition was dated the 14th of December. 14th of December, Your Excellency, is 2 days ago. Had you been served with that deposition?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Nevertheless, had you insulted Janet?
No.
Ever intimidated Janet?
No.
Ever even called her 2 a.m.?
No.
No. Did you see any evidence from her that you are doing that?
No, Mr. Speaker, and I still have the phone which has communications between myself and her since 2018.
I asked her for her WhatsApp printout and she had none.
I have my original phone and I am willing to give it to the House to do further investigations.
Have you been summoned by the DCI or any other organ that you have abused her?
No, but when we are investigating this bursary check, Mr. Speaker, and you've seen what transpired in this bursary case, she was conspiring with MCS to get blank checks, give to junior clerks, they fill names, type, then take to the bank. She was part and parcel of this scandal. So when I questioned her, and these people were arrested, she decided to resign. And I even never suspended her, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, so we saw your analysis of the funds that were being siphoned from the county assembly, going to the benefit of MCAs. Was that the time that Janet was a CEO?
We proved her wrong because her accomplices were charged. And I don't know why they arrested her, but we know her husband is a senior officer at the DCI attached to the United Nations, so she cannot be touched.
Now, all those allegations touch on your evidence touch on your evidence in, paragraph 2A of the allegations against you. Now, you were elected by over 885,000 citizens of Nairobi.
Yes.
Were any of these people, to your knowledge, consulted by the Nairobi City County Assembly before moving this motion of impeachment?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Were you supplied with any document on whichever ward in this county were consulted to actually, again, you have been accused of discrimination, that you have abused your office. Have you ever discriminated against anybody?
No.
On the basis of a religion?
No, Mr.
On the basis of race?
No, Mr. Speaker.
On the basis of tribe?
No, Mr. Speaker.
You have been accused of abusing your office by enriching yourself. Do you recall receiving 50 million to your office? 50 million in the budget of 2018-2019? Sorry, 2019-2018?
No, Mr. Speaker, but at this juncture, there was a confidential budget that was allocated to me by the members of the County Assembly, 50 million. We never utilized that budget. I think the document is annexed in one of the affidavits, Mr. and parcel of their scandals in swindling taxpayers' money. I refused. They allocated me the 50 million budget. It was returned to Treasury during the end of financial year, Mr. Speaker. I never touched a coin.
You steered away from touching county money?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You have allegations made against you that you actually have stolen county money, and therefore you are facing 2 anti-corruption cases. Have you been found guilty in those cases?
No, Mr. Speaker. And at this juncture, Mr. Speaker, I don't know. I know we are running out of time, but there's a very sensitive clip, a very sensitive one. The second of this motion. And I remember the Senate at some point resolved that Jumbo Pay services should be terminated. When we're terminating these services, Mr. Speaker, and this is that is in the affidavit, Council, I think we look for it. The second of this motion, with the CEO of Jumbo Pay, came to my house in Kanamai, and it is captured by DCI because the case was under investigation. And DCI officers came with their recorders, Mr. Speaker. A certificate was done. We captured the current majority leader, Abdi Hassan Guyo, and Jumbo Pay CEO. And the transcript is there. The audio from DCI is there. The case is still under investigations. They told me, wewe ni mjinga, utaki kukula. I want that clip to be prepared by ICT. It was captured by DCI. Wewe ni mjinga, utaki kukula. Sisi na Kidero tumekula 7 billion in 5 years.
As I prepare that clip,
wewe unatukanyagia.
Mover of this motion, kulad. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, sir.
And I think, Mr.
I recall
Speaker,
that word.
Towards the end of that clip, they offered me 5 million a day, 5 million a day from the county revenue. They gave me staff to work with them. They didn't know I had a DCI recorder. The case is still ongoing. Anytime the file has already been forwarded to DPP. They told me they are going to offer me 5 million in a day. They didn't know that I had the recorder from the DCI. I told them, Tawa, I'm ready. Hii pesa ni akaunti si yako.